Wake up! I need you to be focused.
Don't let anyone tell you that shit.
To me, it's like the equivalent of taking a 5-hour energy shot. But it literally becomes like a raging like wildfire where I'm like, boom!
I'm hearing your passion and enthusiasm. That's like a whole different level.
I am learning that I am on the right path.
It's the lens through which you see the world. It is the filter through which every experience you have ever had since Earth has been through.
The key to building a successful team is to having a team with diverse strengths that all offset each other's weaknesses.
If we just follow what we love, we're gonna end up where we want.
Like some of the stuff you said, I'm like, oh my god, yeah, that's a really good way to think about it.
Did you see that movie that just came out about how the laundry was clean every day? Did you see that movie? Fuck no, you didn't see, because there's never been one.
I mean, that's a good label too. I like that.
Yeah.
No, I'm not neurodivergent. I'm just fucking awesome.
I have been kicking a lot of ass this month.
Exactly.
Finding different ways that we can give our own gifts out into the world, I think, is one of the most important things.
Knowing that you have ADHD is not surviving with ADHD or the world. You can thrive.
Oh, hell yeah.
I'm very proud of what I'm capable of, and I'm learning to be compassionate about the days when I'm not.
I would never exchange the good bits of ADHD to get rid of the deficit.
And we're very creative, and we can solve problems and see the world in a really different light.
If I can leave one message to my ADHDers, don't give up.
It feels so good to talk to you about the fucking awesome stuff.
Right. Oh, god damn it, Lauren, yes.
I am there with them, and I am able to close out everything else and focus on them.
You are the driver in your seat. You are your creator.
When I learn something, when I actually learn it, I know it better than anybody else.
This is like one totally surreal experience.
Truly, I believe that neurodiverse people are the ones that change the world, because the world gives them their back and they have to find a way.
Nothing means more than when you give someone else hope.
You want that to touch other people's lives in a meaningful way.
That's all I want.
And that is the ADHD passion side of it that really fucking matters. Welcome to Lobow's Spark. So this topic was brought up by Leo, which was outstanding because he saved all y'all's ass. Okay, it was like the Wednesday of getting me a topic. He's like, "Do you have a topic?" I said, "No, I'm gonna have to create something here." And he goes, "Oh, how about ADHD in the workplace?" And I thought, "Holy shit, it's kind of a big one, so, like a really big one." So I'm gonna turn the floor over to him, and we will get it going.
All righty. Yeah, Terri, Ave, great to have you here. Just listened to your guys' episodes this week and thought they were phenomenal. So love having you as part of the group. And yeah, let's go ahead and get started. So ADHD in the workplace is something that really has kind of impacted me a ton. And for anyone who hasn't quite followed my story, essentially, like, just within the past year or so, figured out that I'm ADHD and autistic. And I didn't really realize that until the pandemic hit. And all of a sudden, I was able to work in a way that I dictated, and I didn't have to like look and behave certain ways. So, I've been a software engineer for about a decade now. And, up until I started working, essentially, I kind of did my own thing. I flunked out of college, went back, eventually got a degree. I always kind of thought it was like a laziness thing, right? And then I get into the workplace, and I think at that point, I'd kind of figured out how to make it all work. And but then I kept getting comments like, "Oh, well, you're not doing things the right way. You're going too fast. You're making careless mistakes." And that's also around the time that I started fighting anxiety and depression. Imagine that, right? All of a sudden, like, I'm getting told that I'm just, being careless with things and I'm going too fast. I need to slow down. And it felt like every time I tried to do well, like, I just kind of got my wings clipped. And so, kind of over the years, I figured out ways to, do as much as I could on my terms, but not shine too brightly, not go too fast, not do that. And when the pandemic hit, and all of a sudden I'm able to just like not worry about what I look like while I'm working, man, all of a sudden I got so much more shit done. And I started exploring like all sorts of like interests again. And then like it kind of occurred to me, kind of through like social media, and I'm seeing like people talk about ADHD, and I'm seeing people talk about autism. And then like I finally came to the realization that what I was doing was, I was masking. I spent a ton of energy masking to kind of keep up appearances in the workplace. And so I ended up like quitting my job back in November to kind of try to launch my own thing. And I've spent the past 10 months or so exploring alternative working arrangements. And, I launched a startup, which I ended up shutting down, and running an online course. Now I'm building out a software application and getting ready to actually join a new startup. And I'm finally like starting to figure out how to do things kind of on my own terms. So all that said, I'm a firm believer that we really need to reevaluate how we treat mental health, neurodivergence, everything in the workplace, because I've seen a lot of stories that are like mine, and I see all the nodding heads. And so, I'd like to start off with just thinking about like, okay, well, first of all, how can we educate, workplaces to actually support us? And then, maybe talk about like, what does that support actually look like?
That's awesome. That was an incredible introduction. So anyone is free to jump in at any time. So who would like to go first on this? Terri.
Hi. I know that definitely makes a lot of sense, and I understand where you're coming from with the, flunking out of school or dropping out of school and then getting into work. And I feel like you kind of still have that learner in you and that drive to go. So then when you do go to work and you start in the field and you're learning as you're going, and you kind of become that reliable person, and then you get more responsibility, and then more people count on you, and then that kind of leads to the burnout, especially when you don't know about the ADHD.
So Terri, that's a really good point. Has anyone here told their employer or that they have ADHD, and what?
Yes, that was really fun. I have only done it for one large company that I worked for, and that was because I had to work in a cubicle, and it was just
oh my god,
watching people cross around me. So I asked for larger walls, and they said no. HR said no, so I had to play the ADHD card, which I never really wanted to do in the first place. But just after that, it was so helpful, like one little accommodation.
Isn't HR supposed to be human resources? That's a very interesting thing. But my opinion, anyone else have anything to add to what Terri was saying about in the workplace? I mean, this is a really difficult thing, because a lot of us, I feel like, are scared to tell our boss or whoever it is, hey, I've got this. Mm-hmm. And then they're like, oh, okay, well, you're just going to be lazy.
Mm. Well, I was actually, I was having a conversation with this. So just briefly to preface this, I am self-employed, and I was self-employed already when I got diagnosed about just over a year ago. So I often say, like, I have disclosed to my employer, but like I don't give myself any accommodations. So it kind of is that. But I was having a conversation, because I do like mentoring with other designers, because I work as a freelance designer basically. And I was speaking to a designer who also had ADHD, and she was asking if I thought it was a good idea to tell her employer. And I have to say, like, I didn't want to be the person who was like, yes, you should absolutely do it, because I think there's still a ton of stigma around it.
Yeah.
And I can only speak for like the creative industry because that's what I know. But I know, and I've heard stories of people disclosing like health struggles, mental health struggles, things like that, and it really affecting like their career progression. So I couldn't recommend that she did it. It's not something that I ever did, but it's not a choice I ever had to make, because I didn't know I had ADHD, but I couldn't be like, yeah, go for it, it'll be great. Although I can see the benefits, I'm a bit like, I couldn't recommend it. I don't know.
I agree with that so much. And Ave, when I was talking to you the other night, we were talking about how, you know, the connection that you have with your boss or the people you work with and all that kind of stuff, that is a major thing in terms of telling them, hey, I have this. If you view that person as a person and not the boss,
right,
that's a massive thing. And,
right.
And that kind of comes from like a little bit of the I guess the passion side of it, to be like, hey, by the way, hey man, hey buddy, I've got this, instead of, sir, I need, you know. And there's a huge difference there, in my opinion. Is I think that the closer we are with the people we work with and our bosses, the easier it is to explain those things. But not everyone has that ability. Some bosses suck.
Has that relationship with their boss to where they can. I feel like with a lot of situations, a lot of people are situations where it's an employer and employee. A lot of people, unfortunately, it's more so of exactly that, where it's just the employer-employee relationship. You see that their employee is slacking. It's immediately, let me get on their back, instead of, but you know, it could be, okay, maybe they're just not feeling the job, which, okay, granted, address that. But it could also be something that is going on. And we had this conversation earlier where it's like, it's easier. I don't want to say easier, but when the disability is visible, people accommodate you in a different way. When it's an invisible disability, such as ADHD, such as autism, such as bipolar, schizophrenia, when they can't see it, they tend to forget that you have it. And so if you are slacking, they don't think, well, maybe he's having a bad day, or maybe she's depressed, or maybe she's like, something is acting up. Maybe let me talk to her as a human instead of as just my employee, you know? And I think it's important that they remember that aspect of, you know, this is a person, not just a machine.
Right. And I think that if more managers were instructed, not just on a like neurodiverse level, but just on a massive level of, hey, hire the person that you like, that you might be able to be close with, that you might be friends with one day. Hire that person, maybe, instead of the one that meets the qualifications on paper. I think that goes a long way. But I know Lauren wanted to chime in on this as well.
Yeah, so I was self-employed. I went to, had no idea I had ADHD until I was 26, 27. And I like coped my way through college, coped my way through graduate school, but it was a counseling program, so it was very much talking and not it was tapping into things that I liked. And I was like, I didn't know it at the time, but when I think back now, I'm like, I was paralyzed with the idea of applying to a job, like applying with a school system and going to work every day, because I knew, like, late lost, unprepared Lauren is, I was just terrified about maintaining a job. And, you know, depression since I was 15, right? It's like something that you cope with. And I was like, how will I ever explain to them? So I became a sole proprietor and independent contractor, and I worked in that field for 7 years independently. And then finally I got diagnosed, and I was like, I want coworkers, I want colleagues, like I want a community where I can kind of grow, because I started to feel like I was stagnating, like I'm not, I'm uninspired with what I'm doing. So going into a workplace, like at first, transitioning in, I think there was enough of like an onboarding process and enough of a buffer. And of course, as like, oh my gosh, was it Shannon or Terri? Terri? Yes.
Yeah. I'm Terri. I don't know if I said it, but.
Yes, but it was like as things start to add up and you get more and more responsibility, I was like, oh no. And then the conditions of my role changed. So, when I first got there, I had a desk where I could put things down, and I would always know, here's where my stuff is. And then we went to no more desks, like you carry everything with you. And I was like, nightmare. Then you don't know where you're supposed to be. And then there's time, and and finally I disclosed, and I think I was really surprised to see how much it changed things, because everybody talked about how important it was to, embrace mental health and support, people, and be inclusive. And I was like, okay, this will be all right. And so I told my supervisor, and he was like, all right, we'll go through the formal accommodations process. And they looked at me and said, well, what do you need? And I was like, that's why I'm here. I need help. Like, help me write an IEP for myself at 26 or 30 or whatever it was. And that bridge wasn't there in the workplace. So essentially, I had put this out there and said, I'm struggling. Like, I need help in kind of coming up with some kind of accommodations plan, not just about the physical stuff, but about the communications channels. And like, there's no meeting minutes if you miss the meeting. And so it's like passing by. It was just so many, and it continues to be that, unfortunately. And I'm, but that for me was the way that people changed about how they treated me. That was like very hard to come to terms with. And it makes me self-doubt a lot. It makes me wonder, like, was I invited, or was I not invited to that meeting because they truly thought, oh, she's doing something else? Or was it because, I'm going to bring a whole bunch of chaotic ideas and, or whatever it is. So I found myself apologizing a lot, or asking people if it makes sense. Yeah.
I wanted to pipe in because, we've got horrible memories, so we don't remember like a lot of things, right, about past job. One thing I do remember about a past job in my 20s was when I told a manager that I had ADHD, and she said, oh, that explains a lot.
Really
good. That made me feel really good.
My boss refers to it as the condition, which is,
oh my God.
No. I mean, which he and I are extremely good friends. And he's like, yeah, so are you going to make this meeting? I go, I'm not fucking making any meetings. Okay. Meetings are bad to begin with. So no, I will not be making this meeting. Tell me what I need to know. He goes, I got you. And that is a huge thing. Like, that is a massive thing, to have. And I'm very lucky in that regard that I became close to him. I just get frustrated, and then I say something impulsive, and then someone on a higher level is going to get really pissed. And that's so I stay clear of the meetings.
I'm actually really good at meetings and really good at keeping people on task. And I think that's the thing, that like, people never know that, you're ADHD, but it's because I'm a perfectionist too, so, but what it takes to get to that point, the anxiety and what it does to your body, it's just not worth it.
No.
Which is why I work for myself now.
Same.
I think we may have just come to something kind of interesting, is maybe the accommodations in the workplace are, we don't attend meetings.
one of them.
I would just love that. Love that.
I mean, there's so many.
No, I know, but like that's a massive one. Like
Yeah, huge.
But if you do attend the meetings, that there is a written actual report of that meeting afterwards, so that you don't have to try and memorize it, because heck no, I can't do that.
Yeah.
I've had the luck of actually having people, not in work, but in volunteering things I've been doing, where they have said, okay, our routine is that everyone gets this report, like a list of things that were talked about, what decisions were made, and all that kind of stuff in those meetings afterwards. And oh man, it helps so much. Would be that, and not just for you who have ADHD, but for everyone.
Right. I think
my
the pandemic
partner works for a place where they do that. All those meetings have basically summaries afterwards.
is that not standard in the
No.
Depends.
Terri, in your business,
It's standard.
Yeah, it's got to be standard. Like
It's definitely standard. And I'm someone who I have different notebooks for different types of things. So I'm taking the notes and stuff, and I'll have the date and stuff, because if I don't physically write it down, then it didn't.
It's gone.
It didn't go in there.
It's gone.
Or
It's gone.
what about like the ability, and the pandemic is a blessing and a curse for ADHD, I think, but what about the ability to attend meetings by Zoom where you're just connected audio and you could be doing other things and moving around and maybe take certain things away from it, because we're very, very good at the key aspects of things. We are very bad at sitting around the fucking water cooler and talking about bullshit that no one gives a shit about.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's
things that would really make a difference are things like walking treadmills underneath your desk, right? Things like blinders, so you don't see people moving around, because really we want to get the attention more focused, right? So I think those are kind of the universal things, but you can only provide those kinds of things in jobs where you have to have higher level education. So what kind of accommodations can you really do for like service level people? Because I can't think of any.
That's why I was an abysmal waitress, like forever. I was just terrible. I would go back to tables and be like, I'm so sorry. What did you say? Because it's me. And I think I wrote it somewhere on a pad of paper, but you've been sitting here and you're looking at me like, and there was no accommodation. My manager was really, what's wrong with you? So
I loved washing dishes. Actually, I washed dishes at a trailer park for about 6 months, which was incredible. It was a great restaurant. Loved the food. Wish it was still there. But the get up and go aspect of it, I liked. I thought it was. I met some really amazing people actually in that doing that for a while. But it wasn't something I wanted to do long term. But it was go all the time. But Kirk, you wanted to chime in on that, I think.
Yeah, I think I've been in retail and customer service forever now. And what was interesting is like where I found most success has been in like luxury sales. And in some jobs that I remember having, this boss was very, very old school. Like everything was ultra structured, every sentence, every step. I did not do well. And then I took that exact same, like I moved from luxury sales to luxury sales, the exact same items in a different store, but had a different structure where there was no rules on how I interacted with the customer, as long as I was getting the job done essentially. And I thrived. You know, when I was done with someone, I could walk in the back. I could go get a drink. I could check my phone. I could reset and then go back out. Instead of having to focus for an hour and a half straight, like you don't move until this task is done, I'm gonna lose my mind. And I about did. Okay, do your job, go in the back, grab a drink, reset, start over. Suddenly, I only have to pay attention for 5 minutes, 10 minutes at the most. And hitting that reset button over and over and over and over again was like a game. It was like a thrill. It was fantastic. I could do that all day, every day. And I went from being struggling just no matter what location I was at the first job, to leading the entire company in every single metric for 3 years straight. Because they said, do things your way. We trust you. You're good enough. We see the talent. Go. Do whatever you want.
That's such an ADHD amazing thing. It's like...
And the small thing, the accommodation was, when you're done with someone, walk in the back. That was it. That was the only accommodation I felt like I really, really needed. And as long as I did everything else, they didn't care. And just the difference between seeing someone who's super, super old school said, here's the way you do it. I don't care who you are. I don't care what you need. And someone who says, get the job done, whatever else you need, let me know, made the biggest difference in the world. Biggest difference in the world.
Working retail, as like in a grocery store, for instance, I have a couple of friends who do that and who have ADHD. They're talking about how moving around a lot is good for them, but when they have to be in the checkout for 5 hours straight, half of their workday or almost half, and then they go on lunch and then they get to do something else after lunch, for instance. It's a nightmare because they have to be in front of people constantly and hear people talking, hear the music on the speakers, hear the calling go off, because stores very often have that. Oh, yikes. But I worked in a call center, customer service with additional sales. But with open environment, sales over there and 2 teams in the same room as mine. Sales were just with a half wall in between us and a big opening, so we heard them. We heard everything and everyone. How's that going to be functional for me over time? It wasn't.
Open
and I
offices
didn't know.
are horrible.
I didn't know that I had that I have ADHD. I'm not diagnosed yet, but I'm about to. But in that environment, adaptation wouldn't be happening.
No.
They couldn't put you in your own office or your own cubicle with higher walls or bigger walls because overload, full-on overload.
And medication can only help so much.
So much, right.
Like the visual stimulation is just too much. I mean, one job, the job that I'm thinking of, there was computer sales. I wore glasses that had like thick sides to have blinders specifically so I couldn't see movement, and that helped me a lot. It was something I did for myself, but otherwise, what are you supposed to do?
Yeah.
I think this is all like really good points, but I wanted to like say that like especially what Kirk was saying about like just figuring out like what works for you. That's like a massive thing. For me, a long time I struggled like thinking I was doing things the wrong way, and I was trying to do them the right way, and then had a lot of like imposter syndrome because of that. And it's only like really since I was diagnosed with ADHD that I was like kind of accepting, actually, like I do things my way and it works really well. So why is that the wrong way? It's not. It's the right way for me. So it's the same thing of like, you know, if you're in an environment that is imposing a way on you that doesn't work, it probably isn't that you're bad at what you're doing. It's probably just that you could implement a small, or sometimes you're stuck and you can't implement that change. But if you could, it would probably make a world of difference. And I think it is like, it's hard. I think that makes it hard for us because like, if you're in a workplace where there is no possible accommodation or your employers are not going to make the accommodation that you need, then you are kind of stuck in this mode where you're like failing and you're seen as a bad employee. So I think it's a really interesting thing of like the very small changes that can be made.
I mean, they're minute.
And a lot of workplaces aren't willing to do that, which I think is
Right, because they're the smallest of changes. Like they are the most tiny little things that you could just be like, hey, go take 10 minutes.
Yeah.
No, you don't
But
have
also,
to come to this. You know?
Also, I think like the thing of giving employees like the flexibility to figure out what works for them, because I know like another aspect of ADHD, like that I like struggled with before is that sometimes things, I tend to go in phases of things will work well for me and then they don't, and I have to change things and then they work again. And so it's like, to employers, if you're constantly asking for different accommodations, that can come off badly, or that can be seen badly when actually it's just a part of ADHD.
Right.
Or lack of knowledge of the actual
disorder. Yeah.
Such a lack of knowledge everywhere.
I think
100%.
the one thing that took me the longest to figure out, even when I got to a job that I was really, really good at, and something that I wish I would have known in school, and for the couple of you that haven't been here before, like I've been diagnosed since I was in 2nd grade. So I knew the whole time. I was medicated for 10 years and I stopped, like all that on and off.
Right.
Even going in with that knowledge, and I didn't always stand up for myself. And that is the one thing that I wish I could tell everybody who's just getting diagnosed, or especially someone young. Like if you can stand up for yourself, because I would
learning to advocate.
Oh my gosh, yeah. And
that's the biggest thing.
Finding someone else that will help you, that will pair up with you, someone who supports you. That same job that I struggled with, I had finally really begun to advocate for myself. And it got hard for me to keep advocating for myself and still fall in those rules. I would say, all right, pair me up with someone who can do that then. Show me someone who's doing this the right way. I need someone who, like, if you believe that someone can have this level of structure and, you know, I can do this, like, pair me with someone who can show me. And when they said, no, we're not going to find someone who can do that, or there wasn't someone who was already doing it, even someone without ADHD who wasn't doing, who didn't have this level of structure that they were asking me to adhere to, I left. And when I left, I found the best job I ever had. They let me do what I want. They advocated for me. I didn't even have to do anything. They paid me better. I had better hours. Like, learning to stand up for myself, start advocating for myself was really, really hard. But like, if someone came to me and said, "Hey, I have ADHD. How do I advocate for myself?" I would be like, "Okay, you're okay. You are with me now forever. I'm protecting you. Like, I'm coming with you everywhere to do this." And like, I just want everybody to have that person, whether it's their family or friend or boss or HR, whoever, someone who's willing to do that, that'll make all the difference in the world.
I was just going to say, as a coach, as an ADHD coach, that's one thing that I have really enjoyed doing, helping people find their voice inside. And I think the advice that I give is know your ADHD really well. You've got to know yourself to be able to advocate for yourself and what you need, which is something we have a hard time doing.
Very true. So, Leo, you want to chime in a little bit here? I mean, you came up with the topic, so I feel like we've abandoned you in this discussion.
No, it's good actually. So I've enjoyed listening to all this. I felt like I talked a bunch at the beginning, so now I'm just taking it in. But no, and actually, so I tweeted something out the other day that I think really applies here, and it's the fact that large companies, for example, and this is coming from experience, tend to value the appearance of effort versus the knowledge gained or actual outcomes, right? And so that's something that I kind of kept running into as well. It's like my outcomes were always good, but it's always like, what will people think? Like, what do people see when they look at you work? And it never looked right. Something that like kind of drives me nuts. So like occasionally I like to just play like puzzle games on my phone while I process things. And like, I got in trouble for that. Now, our workplace had actual puzzles that people would go and work on, which was completely acceptable. But me doing the same thing on my phone was deemed like not acceptable, and it would give off the wrong impression. And so it's like, you know, again, I was always producing like plenty of work, getting lots of stuff done. But it's just like, it's amazing how much workplaces rely on the appearance of work to make everybody happy. And that, you know, and I think, you know, the ADHD brain looking at that too says, well this is, it's dumb. Like, why do we do it this way? It doesn't make any sense. Like, I can get this work done this way, but you're telling me that we have to do it. And yeah, I think that's something that we tend to fall back on. And I also wanted to kind of agree with Kirk on the fact that, you know, it's really about like having the flexibility to figure out what works for us. And the fact that, yeah, it will change. It changes all the time. Like, and that's something that I've started to figure out more of, is like, okay, well, I can at least start to feel when something isn't working as well anymore, and I can start to make those changes. And it just becomes easier with kind of awareness of it. And as we learn how our brains work and we start to recognize these patterns.
It might be a good thing here to mention why it is that ADHD changes so much, because for listeners who don't understand this, we have interest-driven brains, and our interest level isn't always going to be the same. And the way that we do things will work for a while, but then if the interest rate,
100% agree with that, Dorsey. Like when I first started, I was the go-getter employee. Like, I moved a couch into my office, and then they told me, well, you can't move outside furniture in to the company. I go, so wait, hold on a second. I'm going to sleep here so that I am more productive for you. So I need a couch. And it was, all right, you're allowed to do this. But then that changed to, you know, years down the road, I said, okay, well, you know what? I don't really like sleeping in the office as much. It's not working. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back and forth from work and drive and clear my head, you know, every day, go exercise twice and then come back and all. But my results were so good that they finally just said, to hell, you know, to hell with it.
You do you.
You do you. But I think it takes a certain thing that you do outstanding to prove to them to give you the leniency to do those things.
Yeah.
And what sucks about that is you've got to go through the bullshit.
Yeah.
Definitely. And it sucks because it's like this vicious circle of like, if you're not given the flexibility to be able to do the amazing work, then you're not going to do the amazing work. So I found for a lot of people, and this is definitely my story, is people with ADHD struggle early in their careers for a long time. And then when they finally sort of like get to like a tipping point, things start to change and things start to work. And I've heard that like again and again and again. I think it goes to what you're saying. It's like once you're sort of like allowed the flexibility because you've proven your worth, you've proven that you're exceptional or whatever, you can then do the things you need to like keep doing exceptional work. But it's a hard slog getting there.
It is, because the problem with it is you can't just show up your first day and say,
I'm doing this.
Let me do it, you know? Like, exactly. You can't just be like, hey, I know I'm brand new, but I'm so fucking awesome, and you're just going to have to understand it. Like, you got to prove that.
Yeah.
No, I do that now. That is exactly what I do now.
Right. That is exactly, I love it. God, I love it. Good job.
When I interviewed for this job, no joke, I was their last interview. I asked, hey, can I interview on like Monday? And they said, no, we're done with interviews on Sunday at 5 p.m. And I interviewed on Sunday at 4 p.m. And I said, and I got in the interview and I said, listen, I already know you have someone you're ready to hire. Hire me instead. I'm better. I did. I literally said that. I know that's.
Wow.
I said, I know you have someone in mind. Hire me. I will show you. And then when I got there, I said, I'm going to do things differently than everybody else. I said, I'm going to do things different, but I promise you it's going to work. And it's working. And it's working real well. And they've all I can do whatever I want. I can play on my phone. I walk laps at work. I walk about 6 miles a day on my sales floor. Just
love it.
all day. They let me do it. They don't care. They let me play on my phone. They don't care because I do the thing that I need to do every single day for them. But I've gotten to the point where if someone's going to hire me, like, look, I'm weird. I have a lot of energy. I have ADHD. I'm going to do 600 things at once. But I'm going to do all 600 of those things really, really well. You just got to let me do it.
Yep.
And it's working.
And that's the thing. If we're allowed to actually do what we want to do, and make the accommodations that we need for ourselves, it will produce a positive result. I feel like a lot of and I've said this before, I feel like a lot of just innovators, entrepreneurs, and things of that nature are a lot of people with ADHD and things of that. Our minds run at 1,000,000 miles a minute. We're always looking to find a solution in a way to accommodate or make things easier and more proficient. So if we're actually allowed to do the things we need to do, I feel like, like you said, things take off, and once they take off, they're happy to teach others the same thing that you've taught them.
Exactly. It's amazing because all these companies need ADHD people so bad.
Yeah.
Just like so bad to be like, hey, just cut through the bullshit and tell me what we need to do, and we will.
We're the innovators.
Right. I mean, it's, again, Ave, like the other night, what the fuck is the problem?
Means that sometimes you're not actually going to work for someone, like Shannon, ADHD designer, worked for herself. Yeah. And I don't know Leo does too now, right? Yeah. Well, so does Dorsey. So yeah, several people here will understand what I mean.
It's like 6 times more common for ADHD.
Self-employed. For me, I don't actually quote unquote work, but you bet live streaming is a job.
Oh
it's a lot of work.
I give y'all so much credit
just like
for
doing
that.
podcasts, it's also a lot of work, and it takes so much organizing, so much planning, so much thinking, so much structure, even to just go live and know what you're going to do that day.
Right.
So, but I'm able to do it my way. I'm able to play the games I want. I'm able to cover the topics I want in my talk shows. And I feel like being able to adapt to exactly what you need and have as much or as little structure as you need totally helps. For me specifically, I can't speak for everybody else, but there's the two sides. There's the working for other people and asking for accommodation, and there's the, if you are lucky enough to be able to do stuff for yourself. I am basically disabled. I can't work outside of the home. I can't really work at home either. I can do this streaming, and it's meaningful, and it actually does help people, and we do charity stuff. And that's also a heck of a lot of work, let me tell you. 4, 5, 6, 7 campaigns a year. It's a lot.
Yeah.
With one being, for instance, that's common here. But where there's flexibility, like my partner has the option to just get up from his work desk, go outside for 5 minutes, come back, keep on working, as long as he gets his work done, right? And he has 30 minutes for lunch. And he decides when he's going to take that lunch. I notice that when I can create my own schedule like that, and I take a break every hour, I get up, I move about, I actually walk upstairs, take a lap or two, and go downstairs and actually stretch and bend, touch the floor if you can.
Right.
It is so helpful.
I could attest to that. I mean, one of the best, I call it the best worst job I ever had. Best being just money wise, but the worst job because I was in the office. I was stuck behind a cubicle. I was basically running doing the call center for an alarm company. So if your alarm would go off, I had to call, make sure everything was okay, and dispatch the proper people. However, your time is like very monitored. So once you sign out of the program we were on that has the alarms showing up, once you sign out of that to go to the bathroom or to go, take a little break, it keeps track of that. And so it's really designed for, of course, more so neurotypical people where it's like they don't have to move as much it wasn't really designed for people, you know, like us, where we have to get up, we're fidgety, we got to move, we get a little like distracted. So when I would take my breaks, they would talk to me about how, you know, like I stayed away from the computer for 5 minutes longer than everybody else, or 10 minutes
Jesus
longer.
Christ.
Yeah, and so after a while, I just got so annoyed. The alarms would go off in my ear, and I have ADHD, I have ASD, so it's like autism spectrum disorder. So like just very loud sounds are very triggering for me. Like certain sounds would just bother me, and I would have to sit through it and still talk to the person on the phone. It was just a lot for me to handle, and I left, started doing my own thing, and this is where we're at now.
And now have 70,000 million trillion followers on TikTok by creating videos.
Just thank you for these like good vibes. I've been grappling with like what to do and how to work through this. And, you know, health insurance is a really big part of why I continue, you know, when I was self-employed, that was a very difficult thing. And of chronic Lyme disease. So there's like a whole bunch of randomness that comes associated with that. And I've been grateful for health insurance, but at what point, you know, do you balance like not being happy or not feeling like what I have to contribute? Like if every time I talk, someone looks exasperated, that's a sign that like I'm not, or that it's just not the right fit anymore. Or if the same person looks exasperated over and over again, maybe that's just a challenge that I can work through with that person. But I thanks for your good energies, and it was good to hear this and hear everybody who is self-employed.
We have some big players here. We've got ADHD designer who's got like 1 million followers on Twitter, and then we've got Abe who's got almost 1 billion people following him on TikTok. but yeah, so where we are right now is, I think the bottom line is, if they just give us that leniency to do it our way, which is the whole core concept of ADHD to begin with, is let us do it our way.
And as I said before, I feel like when that happens, because at the end of the day, like we often attest that like the school system itself is not set up for everybody. And what I mean by that is, you know, there you have different learning styles, different ways that people are, you know, taught, or people take in information. Like everybody's not going to be somebody who could just sit here and read this and just be good with it. Some people have to get hands-on, really physical. Some people have to get very visual learners. And so I feel like just like in the workplace, just like in the school setting, the workplace is more so set up where it's like they want you to do it this way. But if I'm trying to explain to you that it doesn't work for me this way, I understand what you want me to do. It doesn't work for me this way. Can I try it this way? If they do allow us that leeway to try it this way, chances are it will work for us. We will produce the results we want, because we're going to hyperfixate on the things that that we're interested in. And if we found a way to make this interesting for us, we will then produce very positive results.
Yeah. I think the hardest thing though is like, how do you as an you know, when you first start a job, maybe it doesn't interest you. Maybe you're doing it because you have to pay bills or whatever. How does that, what do you do in that case? And that's what's so hard, I think, for so many people is like, they can't just go up and say, I'm going to do this. But it only takes one really positive thing that you do with that company to make them trust you to do it your way. So I think it's kind of just like, you know what? You're going to have to grind through this to get to that one positive moment. And then after that, you'll own the company in 6 months. I mean, it's true.
It's true. It's true.
I mean, I remember talking to Kirk in our episode, and he was like, yeah, I went from walking in to buy coffee to buying coffee at this place to owning this branch in 6 months.
Yeah.
Like that happened. Like he walked in because he liked the coffee. And then he owned the store. Like that is fucking amazing. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
we're all so fucking amazing, and everyone listening needs to shut the fuck up and let us do it our way.
And give us help. Give us help when we ask for it, because we're not asking because we're lazy. We're asking because we just need a little bit of help to be able to do an amazing thing. We're not asking because we're lazy or we don't care or we're not as good enough as other people. We're just asking because we know what we need.
And the general thing for a lot of people, especially managers and bosses, please educate yourself. If you're listening to this, you've started on it to learn about ADHD and autism spectrum disorder and other neurodiverse conditions, if I can call it that. Just try and learn just the basics, and you'll understand a whole lot more. And so when we come and say, I have ADHD or I am autistic, I need this. Because we've done the work too to figure out what we need.
Well,
then
that's
you'll understand why.
That is a great point, Blushing. A great point.
Yes.
We have done the work to be able to come to you and say, I need help. And that's really difficult to do. That's a great point, Blushing. Thank you so much.
I also think it goes beyond that. Because going back to people starting their careers, maybe people who have just been diagnosed or even don't really know, having a manager that is proactive about learning about, what ADHD is, what autism spectrum disorder is, it's that could be magical for someone. That could give someone who maybe doesn't know what they need yet, the leg up that they need to do amazing stuff. So
I agree. And it's I feel like once the employer is more so educated on the subject matter or the disorder itself, I feel like that can open a lot of doors for people to be accommodated properly. Because, for example, people without ADHD, and even if, for example, when I first got diagnosed with ADHD, I thought it was just, I don't pay attention. When but you learn more of it, and you learn how severe things can get for those with ADHD. It's not necessarily we don't pay attention. It's we hyper focus on whatever interests us, and if it doesn't, we don't really pay it any mind. There are also things such as, for those listening, there are also things such as we have object permanence. And basically what that means is the same way you cover your face with a child when playing peekaboo and it thinks you disappear, we have that same thing. So if you think of why are people with ADHD always late to places, it's because we physically do not hear or see time. So we are going to forget. It's the same reason, you may have a very good relationship with your family, but you may not call them every day because you don't physically see them. It's not that you hate them. It's not that you dislike them. If you see them today, it'll be like, y'all just got done hanging out yesterday. You know what I'm saying? But sometimes we forget to do things because we physically cannot see or hear it. So events, dates, things of that nature, we're not good with those kind of things sometimes. And I think once employers are much more aware of not just the stigma of the disorder, but they actually learn what the disorder is and what comes with it, a lot of accommodations can be made.
Definitely. I feel like too, the memory thing, that's kind of something that's always oh, they don't remember. And then especially when it's a fact that you're no, you definitely didn't say this ever. This was never mentioned. It's oh, well, you don't remember. And I just want to be I don't have a bad memory. It's all there. I just forget to remember.
Right.
It's just not at the front of my, it's a fucking,
it's a selective
memory in there, but it's in there. It's buried.
It's a selective memory too.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's how could you not? It's like the movie Office Space. You forgot to put the cover sheet on your TPS reports. Well, no one gives a shit about that at all, ever.
Yeah.
Yet, so, but your memory does look at AVAS, but you do remember the really important things.
Yeah.
And this is this goes to the thing of ADHD as a superpower, because if you think about it, hiring someone with ADHD, we come in, we see everything all the time being wasted on unimportant stuff, and we can strip that right out,
right,
and start leveling up whatever the company is. And like,
right.
I think a few people have said they've done that in this call, and like I've definitely done that as well. It's like everybody's there doing things because they've always been done that way,
right?
And someone with ADHD can walk in and be like,
That's
"What?
stupid.
Why are we doing things?"
Yeah. No, it's intimidating for employers, and I think that's actually a very, very good point, because I think a lot of companies are scared to hire someone that will fix everything it took them their whole careers that they couldn't get. So they're scared that they're going to jump them, almost instantly. And so they create these things of like, you have to sit at your desk for 8 hours, and you have to, I mean, that shit, when you get there at 8 and leave at 5, I mean, what are you really doing for that time? I mean, like, what the hell? There's no business on earth. Right.
Nobody's going to be effective from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. minus 30 minutes for lunch, or maybe 2 10-minute breaks in that time. You're not going to be effectively working for that long.
No. If everyone was given the freedom to work and not talk around the water cooler and not gossip about how this person said this and that and that no one cares about, the workday would take 3 fucking hours.
True.
If everyone just focused when they got there, from the time they got there to the time they leave, the workday's 3 hours.
3 to 4 hours says research. So up to 4 hours.
Very true. Very true.
Right.
And if that is if people have the ability to focus and sit and do their job as they're supposed to, instead of doing all the other things that aren't important.
Right. But
hey,
we don't
social
focus,
things
right?
are important. Social things on lunch, for instance, is important for a lot of people. But some people, like me, that is too much.
I agree.
Can't be in a room with 100 other people yabbing. I'm not saying yabbing is bad. It's just an expression. Talking and overwhelming me.
Yeah.
I can't do that. If I have 3 people, 4 people maybe, around my table in like a little bit of a corner over there, not a really huge lunchroom, I'm fine. But yeah.
Well, if you have 100 people that are talking about something that matters in life, you're going to be fantastic about it. It's the bullshit, conversations that we are forced to be a part of.
Small talk. Oh my
all that
gosh.
shit is just, it's very frustrating. Does anyone else have anything to say about this particular topic before we move on to what have you done recently?
I think one of the last that I was just like laughing to myself about something we said earlier about like a lot of businesses want the appearance of doing work instead of actually doing work. And that was something I ran into a lot. Like, we need to do this thing 10 times a day so we make $1,000. And then we have to write it down, and then we have to put it in an email, and then we have to make a spreadsheet to prove that we did the thing. Okay, so and then I'm like, wait, I just did the thing 100 times. I'm like, well, what do you mean you did 100 times? Well, I did it 100 times. Can you prove it? Well, yeah, like the cash register's over there. Go look, like it's done. Like how much do we do? But did you write it down? And did you see the email? Did you do the spreadsheet? And I'm like, what's the spreadsheet for? Like, oh, we got to have a spreadsheet. But why? Because we're supposed to. Huh?
It's registered in the register.
Yeah, like
there is electronic tracing.
Yeah, like, okay, I did the thing 100 times. Yeah, but you didn't really do it because you didn't write it down and send an email and do a spreadsheet. I'm like, no, I still did it 100 times.
Ooh.
Yeah, and like that's one of those things that I've run into over and over and over again. You got to prove you proved you did the thing to prove you did the thing to prove you did the thing that you did. Where a lot of times we're gonna want to just do the thing.
And that's it.
And then
that seems normal.
Yeah.
And then have it electronically proven by that cash register or the computer program you use.
We're often accidentally efficient. Because we want to cut out all the
boring
steps we don't need.
Exactly, Shannon. Yeah. Exactly. Abe said the same thing the other night when I was getting into my whole spiel. I was getting all pumped up because like we were just yelling about this bullshit, and Abe is like, there are a lot of positives and all this, and I'm like, fuck yeah, all this kind of shit. I go, but we suck at it. And he goes, what's boring? Like, that's exactly right.
Yeah, I'm bad at boring.
I feel like a lot of work is just a lot of the things like the spreadsheet thing. That's busy work. It's just to keep you busy. Like and it's funny that you guys mentioned that because I definitely saw a video the other day and it was these construction workers and they were just hammering nothing, but they said their boss would text them every day, "Yo, good job," and they realized like their boss was just looking for them to look busy. Because they had finished the job early, and when they were chilling, the boss would get mad at them like, "Y'all not working, y'all not working." So they said for the next couple of days, they just started like they would finish early and just start hammering random things. And the boss will always email them, "Oh, great job, y'all doing good, y'all doing this, that." I agree, 100%. A lot of times people just want you to look busy.
Yeah.
This is like a massive thing I've been talking about recently of like when you're freelancing, like you know, you can charge by the hour, or you can charge by the day, or you can charge like value-based pricing, which means, so for me, I can get things done a lot quicker than a lot of designers, but the things I'm interested in, you know what I mean? So I tend to go for those kinds of projects because I know I can do them really quickly. But if I charge by the hour, I could probably make like $100 off of it when any other designer would take 10 times as long and make $1,000 off of it. You know what I mean? So it's this whole thing of like the way the working world is set up, where you're supposed to be there 8 hours a day. If we can get done in like an hour, what someone can do in 8 hours, then you have to stand there and pretend to hammer, which is just like bizarre.
Yeah, which is really just very stupid.
Well,
I mean, it is. It is.
It is.
Like,
where you as a designer will finish this project, because I've seen you work on your co-working streams, and you're finishing this project in 4 hours. It's pretty big. You're finished, but you say, "Okay, but I'm gonna actually send this to them tomorrow afternoon," because because it seems like you haven't done a proper enough job if you spend 4 hours and then you send it to them. You have to actually hold off. It is so silly.
Yeah.
I don't really understand it. Well, actually, I do know how it works, but I don't understand why.
The thing is, like, I do get it. Like, I understand it from like my client's perspective. If I'm charging them this amount, which is maybe like a market rate to do something, and it takes me an hour, I send them an email back in half an hour and it's done, they're going to think I somehow like cheated. You know what I mean? So I do get it from that perspective, but you have to play the game a little bit. You have to fake hammer. You have to send the email the next morning. Like that's just, we have to learn to like work.
That's the whole curse of the ADHD thing, is like two students take a test. They both turn their test in within 5 minutes. One has ADHD, one doesn't. The one without ADHD, it's going to be like, "Oh, thank you for studying so hard. You really knew your shit." The one with ADHD is, "Why'd you rush through it?"
Yep. And a lot of the times,
that doesn't make sense.
When it comes to situations like that, even when it comes like business situations like that, like where you're designing and you may have to hold off, and people may think if you send it off that same day or you finish within that hour, that you somehow cheated them. A lot of the times people don't even realize, as I said before, with ADHD comes the hyperfixation. And so chances are you have fixated on your hobbies and what you love to do since you were a child. And so the thing is, people tend to forget, yes, you pay me for whatever, you pay me this amount of dollars for whatever product I'm giving you, but you have to remember it took me about 10 years to learn how to do it in 10 minutes. And people kind of forget that. So as you said, we do have to sometimes play that game where it's like, we got to hold off and make it seem like a little longer of a process. When in reality, with our hyperfixation and with us just being interested in it and learning the skill set to do certain things very quickly, we probably finish it within a couple hours and we've been done, right? You know.
But also it's like, it's very important to do this, like to like hold back a bit, because unfortunately, like there's not an understanding of hyperfocus. So like going back to like my example, if I hyper focus on something and I get it done in 2 hours, that doesn't mean I can then continue to work at that level for the rest of the day.
Right.
So when you're working in the employee situation, it's hard to explain that to managers. If they see you like rapidly outputting something in 2 hours, they then expect you to do that the entire day, which then leads to burnout, which is something we're like really susceptible to, and it gets taken advantage of, especially in creative industries. And it's like, so you need to like safeguard your energy in a way.
That's a really good point.
Speak to that a little bit too. So, I mentioned, I didn't really realize it until the pandemic hit, and then all of a sudden I'm working from home, and I'm a lot more effective, right? And then, so by the time I ended up leaving the company, I was suddenly on 3 different projects, like helping out like all over the place and trying to do something on my, get something going on my own in the company, and working on a master's degree. And I ended up burning out, surprisingly, right? And that's, I think that happens a lot more than people realize too. If we start, it's kind of a double-edged sword. Like we start showing how productive we can be, and then our employer is like, great, now do that, but a lot more. And then it's bad in the end. And that was something like I kind of like I saw it coming, and I didn't give enough credit to how bad burnout can be, because I will say it was really hard to like do anything for a while. And then I quit my job to like launch this startup, and then all of a sudden it's like I can't program, I can't do all this stuff, and I'm trying to like figure out how to get stuff going. That's something that it definitely need to watch out for, and I think a lot of it, we have to stop focusing as much on how much time is spent for things. The problem is that's what employment is all based off of, right? This idea of like, you work 8 hours a day, and at least for 5 days a week, and the productivity levels of everybody is going up with technology. And the employers tend to just be like, great, be more productive for longer, let's do it.
Because they're trying to get the most out of you. They're trying to just, look at this star, but they don't recognize you for doing those things if they demand it of you, which is bullshit.
I mean, that's exactly it. Like it's employers will just like burn you out and then toss you away and look for that next human resource. That's why.
And then they wonder why people become burnt out.
Right.
Yeah.
They complain about it too. A lot of why they know what they're doing.
They do. They do. They absolutely do.
Like in the creative industry, and I know this because I've like been in management in the creative industry. It is like a known thing in design agencies. It is known that you can hire a young designer, maybe won't really realize what's going on. They'll be grateful to have a job doing what they love, and you can get them to work constantly. And it's like there's a lot of agencies like advertising, design that basically like work on this model of like chewing people up and spitting them out, and they know what they're doing.
I will be in commission forever. You're
Love
gonna
it.
pay me for what I do, not for how many hours I stand there and look like I'm doing something different. Like
it's a quality versus time thing. It's like, do you want the product to be outstanding, or do you want us to spend a lot of time doing something that sucks?
And it's like, I mean, I could go off on this. This is like
I love it.
But okay, so we live the society we live in right now, right? Jobs are being automated away rapidly, which means you're going to have more and more human resource to churn through. And like, because we work on this kind of like time-based structure, people putting in the hours, spitting them out and chewing them up, when eventually we're going to get to a point where so many things are automated that we don't need everybody in the world to be working 8 hours a day. I would argue that we are at that point already.
Yeah, we are.
So it's like the whole damn system is wrong. You know what I mean? Like so it needs to change. I don't know how it's.
But who is going to rescue that system? Fucking us.
I mean, I'm working on it. I'm trying.
Right? No, I know.
That's it. That's the reason I went self-employed. It was like, this is ridiculous. Like, there's a better way. There's a better way.
Yeah.
And so, like, for me, like, growing, like, my business, like, I have this dream of, like, you know, a neurodiverse agency that just lets people rocket to the moon and do what they want. But
that would be cool.
We're on our way.
I go by a model of, if I hire you, whatever you put in to this company and this brand, I will triple in work getting you to where you want to be, whether it's here or somewhere else. Here, I just want your ultimate goals in life. Like if your life goal is to do this, I will help you get there. We need more bosses like that, more managers like that. We need to get rid of the word boss. I mean, that is just such a stupid word. How about you work with someone, not for them?
Yes, I totally, this is, again, because I'm so into this. Like, I hate the way the workplace is like, it's like
Shannon's gonna have it.
No, I've been thinking about this a lot in the context of like my own business, and like, because I'm hoping to like hire like in the next year or so, and I've been thinking about like how I want to do it, and this whole idea that like the way I hate that. Okay, so like we live in like a free society, and we have these values of democracy, except in the workplace where your boss can just tell you what to do. I think that's
it's top down
weird
all the time.
But why? Why?
Is...
When our society is meant to value like freedom and like
you gotta have that
be
power.
an individual.
You gotta have that power. You gotta have that suit that makes you look all important. You know.
I very much love the aspect of, you know, trying to at least help people that, you know, your employees that you hire, even if it's not staying with the company, getting them in a position where they can be doing what they want to do. Because I'm very much, I remember like when I first started working at 18, 19, when I first started doing job interviews, say for like something like Popeyes or something, I had, you gotta lie to these people. Oh, why do you want to work here? You really want to say because I want some money, but you can't say that. You gotta tell. Oh, I see such a future with this company. Like, no, I don't. I never planned on doing this. This is not what I was
to pay.
I have never looked at a written thing in my life when hiring somebody. I don't care if they are, you know, went to Harvard with 8,000 degrees. I could give a fat fuck about all that shit. Like, you show me who you are as a person.
I had a conversation with some designers I work with. They were like more junior designers. And I think it was at like our Christmas party when I still worked in an agency. And they were like complaining. They're like, you know, my career would have been a lot further by now if I had gone to like this university. And I was like, I hired both of you and I didn't even look at your CV. I just hired you because your portfolio was fucking amazing, and then we met and you were fucking amazing. So I'm sorry that maybe it works that way, but that's not, that wasn't why you're here. So
I feel like that mindset is a beautiful mindset to have, because especially with ADHD, you know, as I said before, a lot of us find the career paths we want to do at a very early age, or we're at least very much aware of what we're interested in at a very early age because of that hyperfixation. So for example, for me, myself, I'm currently in school for biology. I'm going in the field of evolutionary biology, but I taught myself how to do graphic design. I've been doing graphic design for 10 years. So if somebody, if I apply for a job, unfortunately though, if I try to apply for a job with graphic design, I may get it, but then again, I may not if I don't have a graphic, like if they're looking for like some kind of certification behind it. Now, you know, based off my merit, I could say I've been doing this for 10 years. Like, trust and believe, somebody who just went to school for like a year or two compared to what they don't know what I know. So I may have a different approach, or I may bring something different to that table. But you know, a lot of times jobs are looking for these credentials and things of that nature. Even with evolutionary biology, I've been since I was a child, I've been watching Animal Planet, watching animal documentaries. There are so many books on like zoology, things of that nature. So I've been like learning about these things before I even went into going to school about it. But
So-
you know, hyperfixation comes in handy.
It does. So, Ava, I would say any job you apply for, just say I want to meet in person for my interview.
Oh my God,
That's
yes. Oh my God, I'm so glad you said that because I like.
And that,
I
mean,
always
because
feel like
you
I
talk
get
to
in a room
Ave and
with
you're like, you're
someone-
fucking hired.
Yeah, you get in a room with someone, you can sense the passion.
Exactly.
That doesn't come across on paper.
Yeah,
So
right. That's got to be done. Like the face-to-face stuff
Yeah.
has got to be done.
100%. 100%.
I think. So to wrap this up, we got to do what are you most proud of recently? I'm sorry, we have to do it.
Okay, no, it's okay. So like the deadline, the pressure cooker is like where I thrive, right? It's like down to the deadline, and we had to leave to drive. I'm in New York with my partner, and so we had to get on the road, and I had a course proposal that I had to put forward to teach a course during this winter term, and I was like, as I'm writing, I'm like, this is crazy. They're not going to buy this. This is going to be wild. And I put together a killer course proposal. And when we got to New York and I checked my email, they were like, yeah, hell yeah, this is a really good course. And I was like, you see, you were all judgy because you didn't have it at like 5 days ago before the deadline. But man, when you put me under the crunch, I can really like think and thrive. So I was proud of that.
Very nice. Dorsey?
I did all my branding and brand positioning for my new coaching business myself on Canva for free. So I was pretty happy about that.
Nice.
Very
good
job.
job.
Hopefully it looks good and my website's up. So
I'm proud that I'm talking right now.
Thank you, Terry. Blushing. What are you most proud of recently?
I am struggling with the ADHD assessment process still, because there's still bugging about the external evidence from childhood. There is a little bit of it because a parent said, hey, she saw a psychologist because of being hyperactive, 3 different behaviors that showed hyperactivity. But that's not enough. So we're waiting for papers that will show that, yes, this is what happened, and yes, she saw the psychologist, and yes, these are the things we talked about. They were issues. And I actually stood up for myself yesterday and said, well, you know what? If you can't, not that psychologist, but that clinic, if they can't do the job more than 90%, then, well, I'm thinking that somebody else will have to do the 100%.
That's right.
And I said that out loud, that, you know what, I don't feel like I'm being heard. I don't feel like what I'm saying counts. And I've already said that before, but I said it even more clearly and almost forcefully. Yesterday. But still very diplomatic, because if I'm not, well, then I'm not going to get any help, you know. But I stood up for myself, and even though I was furious on the inside, and actually I was crashing emotionally, I've broken weeks ago, you know. But even though I was feeling like that before I got there, and then I was told when I got there that, no, we're not doing ADHD testing yesterday. We were doing exclusion of personality disorders. And I knew that probably would be something we would do, but they changed the plans. They changed what they told me, and also said, you know what? That's not okay. If you change your plans, you got to tell me. You got to call me. You do need to let me know. And I'm not really used to being basically, hey, I demand this. But in a very polite way, still. I'm not used to that. But I'm proud of actually doing so. Even though I'm feeling so done, so depleted, so out. I'm glad I'm here. because this is actually something that is uplifting to me. And I actually
that means the world to me. Sorry.
I discussed this with Shannon actually earlier, really cool. Yesterday, I think, that, hey, you know what? Being on this podcast is something I'm also proud of, that I'm able to go on and do this thing when I'm really down and out.
Yeah. Yeah.
Pump you stick up for yourself.
Kudos.
Yeah.
But I'm very glad to know y'all and have y'all, because you know what? It's really needed these days for me.
Yeah.
Yeah, you have our support, like, fully.
Always.
So.
Blushing, that honestly is like the nicest thing that anybody's ever said. I'm about to start crying, but I can't do that because I have to maintain this percent. So what I will say to that is fuck yes while I hold back the tears. Thank you.
That's such a quote. Fuck yes while I hold back the tears.
So, Kirk.
So something I've been working on a lot in my life is, like, I've taken this year to, like, focus on, like, my health, whether it was mental, whether it was my teeth, whether it was how I ate, whether it was, like, everything. And it's been a really good year. But the other thing that I started talking with, I actually have an awesome therapist. And one of the things I was talking about was, like, finding purpose, because I feel like I can, like, do this task great, do that task great, and then I'm like, where is this goal? And so one of the things I've been working on this year is finding roads that will lead to important intersection. I'm gonna, like, and this is one of them, because this podcast is not gonna be the end all be all for me, you know. But I think this is a really important intersection. Whether I find something even more important, or find something additionally important because of somebody in this group, or because it leads me somewhere else. Like, I'm doing something meaningful. I'm already on a road doing something meaningful. And, you know, something I said one of the previous weeks, like, I'm going to go back to school next year. And, like, that's another one of those roads. And every time I find one of those roads, I'm more and more proud of myself, because I know that end goal's there, and I know I'm going to change people's lives, and I know I'm going to do something good. But, like, I'm proud that I'm staying on those roads, and I'm proud that I'm actively seeking those out, because they're making my life more meaningful every single day. And you guys are on one of those with me, and I appreciate you all.
Yeah.
Awesome.
I love that.
God, this is just ridiculous. Sorry. Where am I? There we go. Much better.
Much better.
Shannon.
Oh my God. I mean, I think I'll say something that I'm proud of to do with work, just to relate it back to this. I've been thinking a lot about like boundaries with my clients and working in a very specific way, and that all has started to come about as part of my ADHD diagnosis, like, about a year ago. And I feel like I've kind of, like, started to reach a good place with really knowing, like, you know, the boundaries that I have with my clients, what I'm willing to do, what I'm willing not to do, how I speak to them, how I kind of, like, work in general. And I feel like it's all coming together. I kind of, like, wrote it into, like, little manifesto thing. And this past week, I got 2 new clients. Well, one was a client I worked with a few years ago, and then another one was a new one. And I showed the manifesto, and I, like, put myself out there, like, super honestly from the get-go. And I'm telling you, it is like magic. Like, I feel so much better about it. And the work has been so much easier than it has been in the past. So it's just tying it back to everything that we've talked about. It's like knowing yourself. And for me, like, that has all come about as like a springboard off of learning I have ADHD and what ADHD is. So yeah, I'm super grateful to be a part of this podcast, because for me, like, awareness, and isn't it like ADHD Awareness Month in October?
Yes, it is.
Oh shit! Is it really?
Yeah.
I need to do some more research.
Like,
you should be aware of that.
More people can, like, I just want more people to know they have it, because There's like all these statistics that say like 80% of women with ADHD like don't know they have it. Like I just, for me, it's been magic. It's been life changing. Learning about myself, knowing myself, making changes in how I work, how I live. Like I just want more people to have that.
And that's what I feel so important about doing this and the podcast, like the one-on-ones and the group thing, is it's more uplifting so that someone that is kind of questioning themselves, they don't want to be told how bad they are.
Right.
No. We already got enough of that. Come on.
Right. Exactly. They need to be like, oh shit, I have that. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Take me now to the, Thank you, Shannon. So Leo.
All right. So a few things, but I'd say the thing probably the most is I actually got offered a job at an incredible startup and accepted that at the beginning of the week. So it's one that's like, I've been following them for a while, and like the people involved are just awesome. And so I was kind of like shocked, and actually like I had met the founder on Twitter, and like I've been following him there, and then I started talking to him. And it's, kind of funny because there were definitely a couple other startups that like, or one, it was a bit more mature of one, but I was like, I don't know. And then they rejected me for something absolutely dumb, like in one of the interviews. And so I was like, oh man, like that sucks. And then I ended up getting offered this one. So, but more importantly, they're actually going to also like help me build out my own thing too. That's something they really believe in. Pretty much everybody at the company has like other companies that they're working on building. And so it's really supportive of that, as opposed to kind of the last job I had where it was like, yeah, if you build stuff, we're just going to own it because we own you because you're ours, which led to the whole like I'm quitting thing. So yeah, it's just a much better environment. I'm super excited, so I'll be joining them at the end of this month, and can't wait. It was actually funny. I was messaging a Lobow. Like I was like, yeah, I think this interview went really well. And like as I'm messaging, they called me like an hour after the interview with the offer. So I was like, I guess the interview did go well.
My response to Leo was, let's change that text message a little bit. You don't think it went well. I did well in the interview, and they will take me if
right.
So awesome, Leo. That's so fucking cool. Ave.
I'm proud of what we're doing here. I'm very proud of that, to be a part of it. I'm not, I said before, I haven't always been, especially with having ADHD and having the rejection sensitivity that comes with it. I haven't really always been that person to just start just speaking. I'm not a conversation starter. I'm not go with conversations. Could also be related to the autism thing. But I'm very proud that I'm able to be here with you guys. I do truly believe that, as I told Lobow, that there's been times where I'll receive messages about, people saying like, yo, you really helped me, or you saved my life, or you've done this and that. And I feel like we don't realize that even just having these conversations, there is somebody out there who feels alone, who feels like they may not want to be here anymore. You know what I'm saying? And these conversations and having these discussions does help, whether we realize it or not. So it's very, very important to have these discussions. It's very important. You may spark a thought in somebody's brain. Somebody may feel alone and not realize, like some of the symptoms that we even stated here. Some people may go through it and not even realize, oh, let me go get checked out for ADHD. So it's very important to have these conversations. It's very important what's being done. And I love what's happening this day and age, where people are more open about their mental health and are more actively speaking about their mental health. Because even myself, at one point, I didn't know what autism was. I only knew the stigma of autism until I found out that I'm ASD. You understand what I'm saying? Or I have ADHD, or I have bipolar. So I didn't understand all these things until I got hit with it, and I was able to learn about it. But then I saw a whole community of people just who are speaking about it. So I do truly appreciate what's being done here. I'm very proud of what's being done here.
Thank you, Ave. That's awesome.
And Ave, you've done really, really darn well today.
Yeah. Well, Ave, you know what else you're proud of is the TikTok video you will make of this to make us all famous. You'll be very proud of that.
You know I'm going to.
So
I'm already planning something.
I love it. I love it. After Abe and I spoke the other night, what was it, like 9 o'clock at night, maybe 10 o'clock, something like that?
I think it was 10 because I went back out for drinks.
That's right. That's right. I usually take like a 30-minute break before I start editing the episode. And this time I didn't, because Abe pumped me up so much when I was speaking with him that I remembered that Dave was coming back from like a depressive episode or whatnot so I immediately I said, you know what, fuck this. I'm making him an inspirational video. I don't give a shit whether he likes it or not. I'm doing it right now. And all I did was take screenshots of his tweets and put some emotional music in the background. And I sent it to him at like, his time would have been 3 a.m. I don't even know. And then I asked his permission. I remember I sent it to Shannon and I'm like, I just want someone to see this other thing, because if he hates it, and all that. And
awesome.
And he ended up loving it and thanking me and all this that meant the world to me. I'm very proud that my impulse to make someone a 5-minute thing gave someone an uplifting thing for that day. That's a big fucking deal, and I'm goddamn proud of that.
Can I add one more thing I'm proud of, and it's not about me.
Absolutely.
It's actually about us all.
Okay.
I'm so proud of us, all of us, and those who aren't here today, but are still part of the process, making a difference from the tiniest bit where we're at with the people that we know to being part of the bigger picture, because this is just the start of what we're doing.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
100%.
It's just a small fire right now. Okay, it's just a small fire, but it will grow. I promise you.